All right, Dan. Well, what's going on? So for people who don't know you,
Yep.
why don't you give us a little background?
Okay, so my name is Daniel Khabie. I am a father of three amazing kids, husband to amazing wife, who, by the way, I met in first grade, believe it or not. So my
Wow.
wife and I actually met in first grade, and we are now together, which she's she's the backbone.
First grade.
First grade.
True story.
True story.
Wow.
Yeah, we actually have pictures of us playing violin together. And,
What?
and we reconnected in college and
Okay. So it wasn't like a full-on love story since the first grade.
No. But like
Okay.
we were to get like my aunts were best friends with my mother-in-law, aunt were best friends. Like it's predetermined. Like you just know what's gonna happen. You know what's going down.
Okay.
Like I knew it when I first kissed her. I knew like it was over. Like I knew we were getting married. And I got three amazing kids, and I'm one of five. And my parents are originally from Beirut, Lebanon. They came here during the '67 war. And my dad was a tailor. My mom was a school teacher. And then we're all kind of building a life for ourselves. And I got two brothers that are surgeons. My other sister runs one of the largest purchasers and buyers of denim jeans. She runs a big showroom in Manhattan. And my brother's a sports agent and attorney.
Wow.
So it just came I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a Midwesterner trapped in a Lebanese body. And I grew up playing a lot of sports, a lot of ball. And I've always known I want to get into business and entrepreneurship. And I've always been like a creator of things and like get into business. And that's a little bit of who I am as a person.
Yeah. And what do you do now?
Yeah. So right now I run, I'm a partner in a company called Court Avenue.
Okay.
Which is we call it a digital acceleration company. What that really means is we help companies, really kind of drive their businesses forward using digital tech, design, strategy, consulting services, and we work with some of the biggest brands in the world. And before that, I was doing similar versions of that. Before that, I was doing similar versions of that. And so I've always been in the world of like digital strategy consulting. And at the time we first started, it was more like web work, and now it's like turning into strategy work. And clients have grown, the type of services have grown, but I've always been in the people business, which has been a lot of fun. I love people, I love being around amazing talent, and just blessed to be able to do that every day.
I feel like the digital age is kind of something new. So getting into that industry, how was that when it hasn't really been paved before?
Yeah, it's interesting. We got into the business. I mean, how it started for me, I kind of grew up in the marketing space. So I graduated a marketing degree, and I actually worked in Disney World. So like I actually did a Disney World like marketing program, which was the best.
Like an internship?
Yeah, like it was the best experience ever. And I did that, and ended up going to University of Maryland and graduating with a marketing degree. And I moved out west. And what happened to me, my wife and I, we were like hanging out one night in our dorm room, and we're chatting. And my brother calls me up and says, Dan, I just became the orthopedic surgeon for the LA Lakers, LA Kings, LA Dodgers. I'm like, oh man, he's doing his fellowship there. I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like he goes, why don't you come out west? And I'm like, coming out west? Like I didn't think that's real. Like I didn't think the West Coast was a real thing. I thought that was like a sick joke they played on Minnesota kids growing up. Like I thought the Rose Bowl was like this like sick joke they played on us. Like, I didn't think it was real.
You didn't think it was possible?
I just didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
Like when you go to Minnesota, you look east, you never look west. Like there's nothing going on out west. Like we didn't like our heads are not even there.
It's a whole other world.
We don't even think about it. So when he said that, I'm like, man, that'd be amazing. My wife had come out like with her family one time to San Diego, and she's like, hey, what do you think about like we talked about like maybe we head out west. So like one night we're in the dorm room, and actually we're in an apartment.
And you guys were dating at the time in college?
Yeah, we're like both graduating.
Okay.
It's like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, what do you think we just go now? She's like, really? I'm like, let's just go. So we packed up our shit. It was literally 11:30 at night, and we got in the car and we started heading out west. And it was crazy. We had like
with no plan.
No plan. We had like $500 in our pocket. And instead of going to Los Angeles, I said, I'll give my brother the city of Los Angeles. I'm like, let him do LA, and I'll head south to like San Diego. That's where like my wife has been there. She loved it. I get a chance to go to this place. We went to the border. We turn around. We exit La Jolla Boulevard, and we like literally start our life. We got like
La Jolla.
Yeah, La Jolla Boulevard. But
I was like, what's La Jolla?
Yeah, we thought it was called La Jolla Boulevard.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then we just started our life, and we had like $500 in our pocket, and like our parents were like, what are you doing? We're like, we're just gonna move out west, and we just did it, and that's how we started our life. So it's kind of interesting. Like when you start that way, you start off with a bang. You come in hot, and like that's how we started. And then we had the whole experience at the forum, which was amazing. Best way to kick off the forum, I'll tell you the best story is that beyond the fact we get kicked off by Jerry Boss at his table, but I'm sitting in front of the forum, and this guy comes walking up to me, sitting next to me. I look at him and go, "Hey, man, I know you." Like, I don't know, but I feel like I've seen you somewhere. He's like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I've been around." I'm like, no, dude, you're that golfer guy. I go, "I hear you're going to be really good." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, I go, "Oh, yeah, that's right. Your name's Tiger Woods."
No.
He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, this is my first year. Like, hopefully I'm going to have a good year. All Stanford boys come walking up, and I talk to everyone. I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And then that year he won the Masters.
Whoa.
And so like I've had all these like Forrest Gump moments, you know? Like I pride myself on like trying to like have all these like Forrest Gump moments. Like I'm in the middle of these like weird things, you know, like I went down south at LSU. I was in Hurricane Andrew, saw the space shuttle go off, went to Disney World. I've always been that kind of guy that kind of gets out there and do shit. And I think my wife and I we came out west, and I never forget, like we had a bunch of friends who were going to come, and everyone bailed. Everyone's like, "Are you really going?" No, we're going. Everyone's like, "No."
Yeah.
I'm like, "We went."
Well,
so,
because when you made that decision, how old were you?
We were 21 years old, 22 years old.
I mean, how much emotion was in that decision? Like, there had to have been a lot of fear, a lot of unknown.
No, zero emotion.
Really?
Yeah, we just went.
You just trusted it.
Yeah, we just go.
You just knew you'd be fine?
Yeah, we don't give a shit. We just go.
Yeah.
And I think that's how, I think that's the biggest thing for me is like when you kind of believe in something, I don't really ask about it. I don't think twice about it. I just go.
Like you really took a leap of faith.
Yeah, I don't contemplate things. If it's like something right, I'll just go. And like, you don't know what's the worst thing it's going to do. I mean, there is no worst case. As long as I'm healthy and alive, what does it matter? So that's kind of like how I live. I think it's just in general, like I'm very calculated in how I think about things, but I also lead with my heart and my instincts. And like it felt right. And headed out west. And like, so kind of what happened was, you know, we went to the Forum a bunch of times, and then we got this like really cheap, like place to live. And then my wife got into hospitality. She got a job right away in hospitality. And then I got into the infrastructure business, and I started selling like pipes, like T1 lines and infrastructure. And I'm like, what the hell what's this for?
Yeah.
And one day I come across this guy. His name is Brian Kent. And this guy has been really, he was amazing. And he brought me in. He's like, "Dan," he's like, "we sell like content that comes through here, and we're building these things called websites." I'm like, "What the hell is a website?" You know, I was on like Dial-Up and Prodigy. They're like,
"What year was this?"
This is in 98.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like 90. No, this is like 96, 97, like in that range. And he's like, "Hey," we build websites. I'm like, "What the hell is a website?"
Whoa.
And then what happened was I did it for like a year and a half, and my brother-in-law calls me up. And he and a bunch of dudes like got early on in a company called Razorfish, which was one of the original digital agencies.
Okay.
That's the best way to think about it. There's like advertising agencies that do
right.
like print, TV, commercials. And then there's the digital agencies that like made things online.
Okay.
And he built a company called Razorfish, and he calls me. I was like, "Dan, you got to see what we're doing, man. We're growing like crazy. Come out to New York." I come out to New York City, man. And let me tell you something. I saw my muse, man. These guys are hanging out with Leonardo DiCaprio. They're hanging out with all these stars. Clients are throwing them money, and they're building this amazing thing called Razorfish.
Wait, is he facilitating services for Leonardo DiCaprio and these guys?
Yeah, like they wanted, like Leonardo DiCaprio wanted his own website, and right, people wanted their own stuff, and they start partnering together, and like all these stars, and like I go in there, and they have this amazing office in Soho, New York. Coolest dudes you've ever seen. I mean, I'm like, these guys are so cool, dude. I mean, ice, money, cool. And I'm like, these guys, like, oh my God, man, I am in love. And I just became like a student of that industry. You know, like I became a student of Madison Avenue and a student of what was happening there. And I became very deep in like, I want to build that. Little did I know that San Diego was basically a third world country for marketing. There was no marketing agencies here. There was no one doing digital. Like Brian Kent did it with Inspired Arts, but there's another company, Beyond Logic, Little Things. Nothing like these guys were doing the Razorfish. I mean, these guys were like ready growing global.
Yeah.
Like by the time like we created a website, they were like ready in Amsterdam, and it was nuts. So like I was like, you know, one day my brother-in-law calls me up and we're all chatting, and he's like, you know, I said, "Hey, I got some talent in this. Like, what do you think about me starting a company?" And they're like, "Oh, that'd be cool. Maybe one day we'll buy you guys." And da da da. And so me and 5 people. It was Daigat Vara, it was Bill, it was Travis, and it was Richard Assam, which was Daigat's husband, and myself, and this other guy Matt. Who ended up bailing last minute.
No way.
And we get us all together and we go take out a loan. My parents had no money, you know, like, you know, but Richard's dad did, but we all signed off on a big loan. And we're starting this company called Digitaria. And the way it happened is Daiga, my partner in crime at the time, she's an amazing talent. She's sitting there smoking dope, like she's all high. And we're sitting in this room, and she's like, oh man, she goes, I have this amazing name for the company. I'm like, what's the name?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, there's this 2 stars. There's Series A and Series B. I'm like, okay, so tell me. She's like, well, this one star like rotates around this other star and makes that star, the closer that star comes to that other star, makes that star shine. And the name of that star that made that other star shine was called Series B. And this tribal group, the Dogon tribe, called that star Digitaria.
Whoa.
And we're about making our client shine.
Yeah.
And she's like smoking. She had this thing in her hand. And I'm like, man, that's it. And so we create
What?
Digitaria, and my eyes were pointed at Razorfish. I'm like, I want to build what they built one day. And that's how I got into the industry, man. And I just consumed everything, but everything was new. Everything just started. So I was in there really, really early on. Like now looking back, like we were so early, you know?
Yeah.
And in that point, the rest of it is like bumps and bruises, man, and all the war stories that happened in building a company, you know, living through recessions and, you know, all the other stuff. But that's how I got into the industry to begin with.
So at that time, you were like, you said it's
20. I was 23 years old.
You said
Razorfish was the main company, yeah.
So at that point, you're like, I see the best company.
Yeah, in the world.
I want to be that.
Yes.
You know, I want to take what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's I believe in like it's super important to like respect those around you. Like sometimes you're a trailblazer, like you're Elon Musk, where you're leading the world. But Elon Musk even acquired Tesla. Tesla existed as a business, right? So like people, they're just trailblazers, and I was the guy that was kind of like, man, show me the path and let me ride behind that path. Like let me win. Let me feel. And Razorfish is interesting. They built the business, whether they say this or not, but they built this business to actually get into the music industry. They didn't really understand. They knew where digital was going, but not the way we know it today.
Wow.
I mean, they had a quote that said, everything that can be digital will be digital. That's what Jeff Dacha said.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's like it's wrong. And they had their own Bible and their own book of working, their culture. I learned all that stuff from these guys, right? Because they're really open to me. And I go there and like grab their VHS tapes and their documents. I bring it back. You know, I was just totally obsessed with what they built. And they took it public. They took it public in 3 years, man.
Wow.
4 years or something. Like it was crazy. So it was on 60 Minutes, and you know, there's a whole story around that. So that's what got me into the industry at a very young age. But at the same time, like I was just a young kid, man. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know what I was doing, building a company and running a business. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I just drop in, and next thing you know, like 5 partners all get together, and a week later we have an industrial psychologist work with us because we can't get along. You know, so right away learning teamwork and learning how to work with people and learning your role in a team became a big part of my thinking and my capabilities as a person, which understanding like if you're going to build a team, what role do you play in that team? What do you do really, really well? And that's really hard for people because some people just like, they want to do everything, or they're dominating everything, or their personality is so egocentric. They got to do everything. I'm the best. I was just really good at like certain things. And like, you know, those certain things, I was the best at it. I knew that. And I always just believed in myself. And I think that's just coming from my family and my parents and everyone around me. I just like not being successful was never an option. Like for me, it was always about doing great shit and just trying your best, but also have balance, have a family and raise great kids. And like to me, I want all of it. I don't want to just be a successful guy and have a broken life. I want to be a successful guy and have a great family. Look back at me and say, man, I love my dad and I learned a lot from him. That's important to me. So
did you have moments with Digitaria that you were like, I don't know if I want to do this? You know, maybe you wanted to switch careers or different roles?
No.
You guys were very dialed in?
Yeah, never. I mean, the big moment for us was, so we built the business for like 8 years, okay?
Okay.
And then it became really clear to me. First of all, we got through the dot-com recession, which was a big killer, right? That destroyed the whole industry.
Tell me about that, though.
So that was a time where all money it's kind of like NFTs today, right? Everyone's
Okay.
throwing NFT, crypto. It's like the hot thing. Then you have the dark winter and people are losing their money. Same thing back then. Like everyone's building the next website. It's like, I'm going to compete against Amazon, right? I'm going to create Amazon. Amazon was a book company. We weren't selling products. Redo Petco, pets.com gets started. I'm going to redo, you know, stamps.com and, you know, all these kind of legacy Yahoo and all these businesses got created during this time, and everyone's throwing money. The valuation goes up because their next big thing. And then all of them pop, just like crypto popped. Well, our business popped as well. Why? Because I was working with a lot of startups. Startups didn't have money. They went out of business.
Wow.
No one wanted to work on corporate clients. Who gives a shit about corporate clients? They're boring. We wanted to work on the cool shit. Well, the cool shit didn't pay money. So your corporate clients are like, hey, look at me. You know, you're like, I don't want to work with you. I want to work with these guys. They're the ones disrupting you.
Yeah.
Well, little do we know that these guys, some of them would survive, some of them wouldn't, and they would have no capital.
So you guys wouldn't get paid?
We wouldn't get paid.
Wow.
So that was the first thing I dealt with, which was, it was the first time in my life I felt like I could sell myself out of everything. It was the first time in my life I learned the hard lesson of like, there's global economic factors that even you can't solve.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing at a young age to come to terms with that. Like I was on the verge of losing my business. And I remember this. I remember we're having our first kid. Mara was being born. We're in the room, baby about to come out. Business partner who's like drunk at this time somehow works his way into the goddamn room where my wife is giving birth. And he walks out to me. He's like, Dan, he's like, congratulations. My wife's like, get him the fuck out of here. You're like, get him out of here.
Yeah.
Why are you doing here? She's like, Dan, we're not gonna make payroll. We're going broke. Business is going out of business.
What?
Yeah. And that was
Did this guy know anything about timing? Like, that's not the best time.
Well,
to
you never
say
know.
that.
You know, during war, you never know how people are going to react. You know what I'm saying? When your back's against the wall, you never know. And I always tell people, like, never underestimate the human spirit and never overestimate the human spirit.
Yeah.
You know, when people's ability, when they're back against the wall, you really learn about people.
Yeah.
So when things are flowing really well, like an economies like we're coming out of right now, everything looks great.
Yeah.
When things get tough, then you start seeing who knows how to deliver. And I didn't know how to deliver, man. I was caught off guard. We had to lay off people, and I personally wanted to lay off people. I wanted to take that hit, not him. He was the president at the time, and I was like head of revenue or something, but like I wanted to lay off people. And that was my first leadership role where I was like, I wanted to own this, man, and look at everyone in the eyes and say, hey, I'll make sure this will never happen again. Like I want to learn from this pain, like stare at everyone in the eyes and say, hey, man, I'm taking a hit. Like I was cocky, arrogant, and I was wrong, and I should have got rid of people quicker. And as a result of that, we're on the verge of losing our business.
Wow.
And that was really hard for me. Because that was the first time, like I felt like I was in really big trouble, you know, like I was about to lose, but I never really believed I would.
Yeah.
Thought I would, but I never believed I would. I
So
don't
like
know.
you knew it, like it was a possibility.
I knew I was in trouble, but I didn't know how big a trouble, and I was just too stupid for it. And those are the moments that you reach out to your elders. And in great times of confusion and in great times of despair, you need people that have been through something like that before.
Yeah.
To guide you. And I come across this guy, and I'm pitching him in an office, and he sits there and he looks at me. He goes, I don't like that you're close. I'm like, what do you mean?
That you're close?
Yeah, I don't like your clothes. He's like, you're dressed too dark.
Okay.
He goes, I don't like the way you open up this meeting. And this guy's ripping me to shreds. Dude, I'm like, okay. You know, I heard you wanted some work, some digital work. And, you know, he's selling some like religious stuff. Like, you want to bring this whole religious thing online. And I'm like, all right, dude. I'm like, it's cool. I got other stuff to push. I'm out of here. So I leave. Secretary calls me up. Goes, Dan, Lee wants to see you in his office in 2 weeks. I want you to come back. So I come back, took his feedback, put on a brighter shirt, dressed up, heard his feedback, sat down in front of him. And he takes a sandwich and he's like, you want lunch, Dan? I go, yeah. Splits it in half, gives me one piece, gives me another piece. And he looks at me and he goes, he starts telling me about his life story. And here's some random guy in a goddamn like place in Vista. And little did I know that this guy created the generic drug for Ritalin.
Wow.
And this guy was like a very incredibly successful guy. He's the kind of guy you go into hospitals named after him. His name was Lee Leachtag. They were in the Leachtag Foundation. And Lee, for some reason, became my business mentor. He saw something in me. And when I got in real trouble, he's the person I went to for advice. Because my dad never saw anything like this.
And he had nothing to do with digital marketing?
No. He had everything to do with life.
So what were you doing seeing him?
Well, because he wanted to bring his religious. He's Jewish,
okay.
And he got into like religious games. Like it was called divinity games.
Okay.
He had this whole idea that you can like do video games in the church and help people out and all these type of things. And a part of it, he wanted to digitize the whole thing. So you heard from people that, oh, there's this guy named Dan Khabie. It's a digital guy. Come and meet me.
Okay.
So Lee was my first time I actually had this thing called a mentor.
Yeah.
That helped me navigate moments like the .com. And I'll never forget this. I'm sitting down, and this is when after we had our first child, and I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm shooting basketball outside, and all hell's breaking loose. You know, the banks are calling our loans, and you know the whole thing's falling apart, dude. Everything's going down. Everything's going down. And I'm sitting down there. My wife's like, Dan, he goes, come inside. Want to have dinner? And her dad's a very savvy guy. He's a doctor. You know, his name's Sam. He's a great guy. I learned so much from Sam and Liz, my in-laws. I'm very blessed to have great in-laws, by the way. And I remember going to that house and like we were sitting there and he looks at the paper. He's like, Dan, aren't you in this .com world? He's like, how's your business doing? And I look at them and I can hear the clinking of the, you know, I can hear I can hear the wind outside. I can hear the clinking of the
silverware
forks and like and you know, and I'm like thinking to myself, man. I look at everyone in the room, like, no, everything's great, and I knew that like all hell is breaking loose. And I end up going downstairs, and I call up Lee. I said, Lee, I'm in real big trouble, man. I need your guidance. And he says to me 3 magical phrases.
Okay.
He says, keep it simple. He goes, everyone you owe money to, renegotiate, and everyone that owes you money, renegotiate. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, that's how you create cash. Everyone that owes you money, renegotiate. Everyone that you owe money, renegotiate, and you'll create cash. That delta is the cash.
How does that create cash?
Because my payables, people that I owe money to, I push out to 75 days.
Okay.
People that owe me money, I give them a discount off paying. If you pay me now, I'll give you 20% off.
Okay.
That created cash.
Yeah.
And
in a time like that, you need that.
And all I needed was cash.
Yeah.
So I go do that. I then go negotiate with, you know, the bank who is coming in on me. And I'm like, the bank, I'm like, take the keys. I'm like, you want the company, take the keys. So I negotiate with the bank because they called our loan. And we restructure the whole company. We fire everyone we can, keep the people we need. And then what I do is go back to all the employees we got rid of and said, listen, you need a place to freelance. I can pay for your insurance, but come in this office and fill it up. Because I'm going to bring clients in here and I want them to see the biggest poker play in the world, which is they walk in, I want people to see this place busy and things are happening.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, our first client walks in was Petco. And they walk around, they look around, they're like, my God, they're like, what are all these people doing?
This place is rocking and rolling.
This place is rocking. .com is busted. I'm like, oh, we're doing great. Like, what do you mean you're doing great? Everyone else, like the whole industry's dying.
Oh my goodness.
And next thing you know, they hand over a huge contract. And and then Digitar 2.0 got started. And at that point, I knew I needed a really strong operator. I knew that I made the mistake of I needed a really strong operator. I needed a really strong technology around me. And that's when I began looking for someone that can be a partner in Digitaria. And this was like 2007. So it took me like 7 years to, but we built the brand, we built this amazing business, but I didn't have anyone really operating with me. So we ended up doing a deal and we merged with a company called Console. It was run by this guy named Doug and this girl named Ruby and this guy named Chuck, and we all got together. And Doug was this great operator. I was like chief fucking sales slinger.
So you guys merged the company?
We merged the companies together, and the company just took off from there.
Wow.
I had someone that could operate the business. I was focused on driving growth. Doug was doing creative. Chuck was doing technology, and boom, the business just went. And so, as the other lesson learned is like just surround yourself with people that make you better. And all those people made me better at what I did, which is a huge lesson in life, which is like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake. They just want to be everything to everybody. Yeah. Or really, if you're really good at one thing, that's how you scale. So all these things, when you look back in life, you don't know what that means. You know, like there's words for it now, right? Scalability and, you know, if you kind of verticalizing your business and scaling up and all. So all these things are things that I learned through the hard way. And like the only way to do it is like get in your car and go, man.
Through
like
the
that's
unknown,
what I did, right? You gotta
Yeah.
go in the unknown, and digital and all creating businesses and economies, all is the unknown. So that's how we did it. And so when we started turning Digitaria around and got going, it became like a household. Like people knew us. We're the first digital agency that really did something. And I'm like, freaking Razorfish, man. They've gone public at this point. They're a global company. I'm like, we're a schmuck, man. We're nothing. We're like
Really?
it's pathetic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to build a global business, man. And I wanted to build something really big. And so at that point, I began moving to New York, like for 3 to 4 summers in a row. I got to know all the players at Madison Avenue. And we were able to bring WPP in the table, which is the largest marketing service company in the world. They own all the major advertising. If you've ever seen the Mad Men, it's like all those companies. They own them all, largest in the world. They have 150,000 people. And we ended up joining J. Walter Thompson, which is the oldest advertising agency in the world. And I had this vision very early on that we could actually buy and acquire old traditional advertising offices and digitize them. because I had these great partners, we had great people, and we could build this business up. And that was the next chapter of kind of building up that business.
How wild is that?
Yeah. So that was now I'm like 38 now at this point. So
I feel like that's a completely different idea and purpose that you guys are going down before.
Yeah. Totally different, because you sold the business. You're kind of recalibrating for what's next. But I always had this vision. I think the selfish part of me versus I think my partners was I always had this vision that I wanted to be a global business. You know what I'm saying? Like that to me was really important to me.
And they didn't feel that way?
I don't know whether they did or didn't, but I think that there was friction as a result of that, because I led my own playbook and I had my own vision for what I wanted to do. And I pushed it really far, man. You know, I wanted to become a global businessman, and that was really important to me. I wanted to go around the world, and I wanted to, I wanted to go out there and like show that people can do it, man. People can build anything they want, especially out of San Diego. And so I had to whitewash San Diego, because no one's coming to San Diego for like innovative marketing. So, but now it's funny, you look back, I walk the streets and I talk to people like, Dan, I started my company because what you guys did at Digitaria, and like, it's super cool watching like the industry get built around us. Yeah. But I had to go into the mothership, which you learn the world. And also for me, being from Lebanon, like my parents from Lebanon, and coming to the US, like getting a sense of identity was important to me. Like where am I against the world? Like, where do we stack up against the world, and meeting people from around the world? And so that was this next chapter of mine, which was the beginning of this, post acquisition. So anyway, so that was a kind of a fun journey into that next chapter, which I'll be glad to talk to you in more detail about.
Wow. That's, I mean, for me, and what I wanted to touch on more was how you went through like the first initial like growing pains of starting the business, and when what was her name, and she was smoking, and she told you the idea, and like in the whole story that you just said right now, there was a lot of achievements, accolades, and stuff. But what were some times that you found hardship, and initially, like when you were really young, when you didn't really know the future of what you guys were going to do. You guys were all, young and building this company. Like, were there some times that you guys weren't very confident in yourselves, or, how did you guys get through that?
I mean, I would say that the kind of youthful confidence was very much a part who we were. I think we also had a Muse and Razorfish and all the big age. Like we had a chance to see other people doing it, so we knew that it was there. We knew we could go really big, and I just really believed in our team, and I believed in myself, and I believed the people around me, and I knew we had a great talented team, and I knew we were good. So I just kind of knew that we'd go out there and rock it, because I just knew we were great, and there was just no losing is just not. And I just don't think about that. Like I don't worry about that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like if you go show up every day and you work hard and you bust your butt, the business gods will reward you.
Yeah, I feel like,
and I call it the business gods, man. They reward you, man. You put the work in, they come.
I feel like that's a little bit more of a rare thing nowadays, that you find, people at that age, 22, 23 years old, and you have a few people that create an environment for you, like you guys did with a team. You guys all had your own roles. I feel like there's not as much nowadays that a lot of people share like that same idea or message and come together like that,
Yeah, and I think it's about building culture, right? Like to me, that's like a big thing, because like now I can reflect on currently right now. I started a new company right during the pandemic. And, the difference is like, I'm a decade older. Yeah. Right. It's you're walking into it way more intentional. You've kind of been through it all, and you're questioning yourself. Like, I think I have way more questions this time around. Like, do I still have it? Like, I don't need the money. Like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go retire? Like I took a year off, and like now I'm coming back into it. And like, do I still have the fire? Am I still that kid again? Can I find that again? So I think the doubts of creating a new business was so much greater than when I first started my first business, which is crazy. Wow. And I think it was much harder this time around, like getting in gear, like getting in motion, and like, do you have it? Do you have what it takes? Like, do you have that? And I just sat what I did was, and like how this whole thing got started was we were, I realized a couple things. Number one, I got too good at being a corporate guy. And I rose to the top at WP really quickly. I ended up merging like 27 companies together all around the world. I ended up forming Miram. I ran that for 4 years, traveled everywhere, took my family everywhere. And at some point, I just missed my old self, man. I missed the street. I missed who I was. And that was a big thing for me. And also my dad had just died, and I kind of felt like, like it was just a moment for me to kind of pause and like start a new life for myself. And the most important thing, my kids never saw me build a business. Like I was too young. And it was funny, like one of the things I go back to with Lee was, just kind of go back to Lee one second, is that I told Lee, I asked him like later on, like, Lee, you could have just wrote me a check. You could have done anything you want to do and
get away with all your problems.
You shared me the most important thing, which was your advice.
The lessons.
Why did you do that? And he told me, because I missed the journey, and I was allowed I was allowed to live the journey through you.
Wow.
And that was a big thing for me because I'm very much into now like that journey and feeling that journey. So I'm very present now, the journey. Like, so for me, like starting the new business again, like, so it's interesting. Like you go to prison, which I've never been to. My assumption, you either find religion, become a better criminal. When you join these big holding companies and you really let yourself go and really become it, you get a chance to be around all these other entrepreneurs. And for me, who's like a seeker of knowledge, I'm like just taking notes, man. Like, oh my God, dude, I remember you did that deal. Why'd you do that deal? Oh, I remember you acquired. Oh my God, how'd you build this? Oh, I mean, I was in love. So you gotta love what you do. I think passion is really important, because if you don't have passion for it, you're not gonna keep eating it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, passion is the beginning component of team, because if you have passion and you find other people who have passion, and then you bring them all together and there's 5 people in a room, then you say, okay, what are you like really good at? I know you think you're good at that, but like, I'm really good at this, you're really good at that. And then you put it to the test. Like that's how you create teams, because you put the right people around you, but like for me, it was important. Like this next time around, my kids never saw me build a business. I built my first company when I was 23 years old. They never were a part of it. They never saw it. All they knew was me selling the company at that point. They were still young. I was 36 years old when I sold my company. I sold our company at the time.
Wow.
And so they never saw that. And so I realized that I wanted to give them the journey and see, can they learn from me and how I built the business. And one day, it was a year in. I was in retirement, man. And my wife looks at me. I talk to my wife. I'm like, I think I'm done, man. I think I'm ready to come out. I'm mourning my dad's loss. I was very close to my dad. It was really hard. And like, it's time for me to come out, man. And I felt it. It was like time for me to reemerge.
Yeah. And
it was hard because I need that time to deinstitutionalize myself. People underestimate when you're part of big corporate environments. You start talking like them and you learn their lingo and all that stuff. And the reason why is because you have to become them in order to change them. So you have to throw yourself right into it in order for me to build Miram, I had to convince everyone in there that I was one of them. Right. Or they'd never give me the shot. And coming back to yourself and deinstitutionalizing yourself becomes a really big part of the process of healing. So if you're moving industries, let's say you're in real estate and you want to become a content producer, or if you're in this, you want to do that, you have to heal that. You have to do away with that world, and you have to let go of that and reinvent yourself. If that makes
it's
sense.
all energy.
Yeah. And so for me, going to my third car garage, man, like we had this like little third car garage. It was like full of all kids shit. I wake up in the morning, 4 a.m, and I go down there and I remove all their shit. I call the kids down and say, guys, tell me what you want, because I have a pickup truck coming in 3-4 hours. Wow. Take your shit and take what you want. And I had someone come in and white wall the whole board. The whole garage is all white walls. And I put a desk right there, and I put my chair over there. And I have my quotes. My kids come and write quotes in there. And I just stared at that wall until I was ready. I had a pen sitting there until I was ready to be brave again and have that courage again to write my ideas on a wall, man.
Did you know what you wanted to do?
I didn't know yet. No, I didn't know yet. I knew there were areas, so I had like it was broken into 5 pieces. So what I did was I put 5 ideas down, and I called the people in industries that I knew those industries, and I'd call them up and say, I want you to come down to my office, which was my garage. Okay. And it was really hot as shit. There was no air conditioning, nothing. It was like, because I wanted that like moment of like sweat. Like I want you to feel it. Yeah. And then I'd give them a menu and I'd cook them a breakfast. And they'd walk in their suits and ties, because they're used to seeing me in this like professional environment. And they come to my house, and there's my dog, and there's like a whiteboard. There's like cobwebs everywhere. They're sitting down this random desk. And I said, tell me what you think about that idea. They're like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, no, just tell me what you think about that idea. You know that better than anybody. Yeah. Tell me about it. And I would brainstorm all these different ideas until I came to the thing that I love most, which was kind of building a new type of services business. And I just kind of came back to that. And that was the beginning of it. And my partner, One of the guys I met on the inside was a guy named Kenny Tomlin, and Kenny built this amazing company called Rockfish. And so I love the fish, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And he did it out of Bentonville, Arkansas. And this guy killed it. And they grew up around the Walmart business, and because Bentonville's and Walmart's the home of Bentonville.
Okay.
And when Walmart's somewhere, all the other brands come there. And so he exploded on the scene, building software, doing amazing shit, man. I'm like, dude, I want to partner with this guy, man. So I hunted Kenny down. I used to see him in London, different places. He ended up running the venture group in WPP. I'm like, dude, Kenny, we got to talk, man. I'm like, one day we're going to work together, man. It's destiny, dude. We're going to work together. And he ends up leaving. I stay on for another couple of years. And when I take off, I go, Kenny, man, we should meet. And he comes to the office. He comes to my garage, and we're sitting down there. I'm like, Kenny, dude, what do you, let's think about it. He goes, let me tell you about the story. I'm like, what's the story? He goes, there's a small town in Ohio, Bentonville, Ohio. This guy's in the late 1800s, he invents concrete. Takes the first concrete paved the first road ever in America. And the physical distance in A, B didn't change, but the actual distance did. You get there faster and quicker because the paved road. He goes, and then when every major city industrialized, they paved the first road. They named after that one street.
Right.
He goes, we should be in the business of shortening the distance to 2 points, leveraging technology. We should be in the business of that. And the name of that street was called Court Avenue.
Oh, wow.
He's like, let's call the company Court Avenue. And that's where the Court Avenue brand came from. And we're in the business of shortening the distance to 2 points, leveraging technology, helping brands connect to consumers, leveraging technology. Because if you think about any great thing, Uber, Amazon, speed, transparency, and convenience. Those are 3 things they all have. Our business is about speed, helping our clients build better digital businesses. Convenience, how do we make sure that what we build is convenient with the people that do business? And transparency, that everything we do and everything we talk about is very transparent. How they do supply chain management, how we work with our customers, how do we create that? And that was the birth of Court Avenue, man. And that's when we started the business, dude.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
2020 we start.
Right in the middle of everything?
Before COVID starts.
Before.
So I am a COVID baby.
So at that point, are you guys reaching out to businesses?
Starts. Yeah, so 2020 business starts, and we raised some capital. Thank God, we closed it. I threw a bunch of money, and Ken threw a bunch of money, and we brought some teams together, and we go goose eggs. Nothing. January, nothing February, nothing March, nothing April, nothing May, nothing June, July. We've now burned through 75% of our cash. And when you sold the business, you have more to risk now, right? So I tell my wife, I always tell her, don't get comfortable, man, because I'm going to go all in. And she knows that about me. I'm going all. I believe in myself. When I see something I know I'm going to win, I go all in. I don't give a shit. I'm going to find a way to work our way through this thing. And I don't give a shit. And she doesn't give a shit. My wife, both and I, were like, okay, whatever. We'll go back to our apartment. We don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And you have to have the mentality. You got to have the mentality of things are just things and they come and go. So I was pack light. Because you never know when they're gone, man. You got to have that. I call it the eye of the tiger. You just got to have that.
Yeah.
And so we, what happened was we were fortunate enough that even with Kenny and I's connections and experience, nobody was bringing on new partners during the COVID. Nobody's like, oh, yeah, we want to hire a new digital agency. We want to hire a new consulting
Everyone's
firm.
just at a standstill.
Yeah, everyone's at a standstill. So no one's hiring us. So lucky enough, the company that I did business with that bought Mirum, that kind of bought Digitar, then became Mirum, they began integrating it in after I left. And clients weren't happy. And I got one call, I got another call, and then I got a call from my former client at Mazda. He calls me up, he goes, Dan, he goes, we have a huge pitch going on for all of Kia Automotive. I now joined there as the chief marketing officer. I left Mazda. We want to bring you into the pitch.
Wow.
And he's like, listen, Dan, he goes, but it's we have the top agencies in the world. Because when we started, there weren't what we were. Now the industry is very competitive. It's very mature. It's very hard to break into these worlds when they're mature. It's another thing I didn't think about. When I was young, I could just sling stuff. No one knew the difference. Now, you have to be mature to get in it. There's
a lot
payables.
more competition.
Oh, well, just you need insurance policies, payables, receivables. Payment term. It's a whole different game, right? It's a whole different world.
Okay.
So we go in there and
this is a big meeting.
It's a big meeting. We pitch over Zoom, right? Because there's no in person.
No.
Yeah, there's no in person.
Over
right?
Zoom.
Everything's over Zoom. Everyone's dying of COVID at this point, right? So you're pitching over Zoom, right?
Holy shit.
So we go in there and...
Would you have rather been there in person?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Zoom became a great equalizer for us. I'll tell you why. Because I was able to call in people all over the world and all over the country to help me pitch, people I knew.
Okay.
So we put together a team. I pre-negotiate salaries with people, and we go after this thing. We hear nothing. And we're all in. We're already burning our cash, and we're all in now, another 100 plus G's in.
Yeah.
We hear nothing. man, we're burning hot. You know, we're taking, you know, line of credits out. I mean, we're burning hot.
Holy
And then
shit.
I get a call in January. Russell calls me up. He goes, Dan, he goes, don't bullshit me. How many people are you? I go, honestly, Russell, full time, we're 5 people in my third car garage right now. And the reason I know that because I'm sitting in my underwear right now talking to you in the garage.
Oh my goodness.
He's like, I go, but you want to know something? I got 20 people that I feel like I can negotiate. I feel like we can support you. You know I can get shit done. He's like, no, Dan, I know I trust you, but I want to tell you something. I go, what? He goes, I want to let you know that you just won all Kia's business.
Wow.
And I need 40 people in 3 months. Can you do that for me? I said, no problem, brother.
Yeah.
And we go and we just go and we create an entire team and Court Avenue was born, man.
Wow.
And a year later, we all have a holiday party. You won't believe it. So we have a holiday party. We all get together. And I'm talking to Russell. I go, Russell, man, why did you hire me? He goes, you want to know something? He goes, when I left Mazda, my big job, I called 50 people and only one person called me back. And that was you.
Wow.
And he goes, I'll never, beyond the fact that you're the best person for this job, I'll never forget the fact that you in my darkest moments, you're the one that picked up the phone and asked me how I was doing. No one else called me back. People underestimate the power of connectivity and the power of relationships.
Yeah.
And business is built on, you put everything aside, it's all built on relationship. And there's nothing I won't do for Russell. There's nothing we won't do for Kia because they became the stamp. And once we got Kia, game over. You know, a year now, 18 months later, we're over 90 people. We're spread out 3 offices. We just opened Latin America. We just opened up an APAC. And now we're going for people's throats. Now we're going to get going because now we have capital. We got clients. We got culture. It just starts snowballing. Yeah. So this time around, I sit here and I can tell you this right now. I can't believe how blessed I am to get another shot at this thing. How blessed I am to get the experience of working at WP. How blessed I am to have partners in building Digitar with me. How blessed I am to do this and still be alive. So I recognize that I am incredibly fortunate. And for whatever reason I left this earth today, I feel like, man, I really just got really fortunate this time around, you know, because I'm just with good people, building it again, and I'm doing it like as an older guy. And it's just fun to like go out there and be with young people every day, man. Like I walk in, got all these young kids around, and you know, it's just fun vibe, man. So that's kind of the story, man. That's where I am now, and that's kind of a little bit of the journey, and there's tons of stories in between that. But it's like it just shows you like anything's possible, man. You know, if you just put hard work and people think it's easy, it's never easy. It's super hard, super stressful. I get super worried, but like, you know, I just keep going. And I just never doubt myself, man. I just never doubt myself or people around me. We'll always find a way. And if we don't find a way, then we'll find another way. And failing is the best time to learn. So I fail every day of my life and I learn every day of my life. And that's how you get better. So fear is the great, I don't worry. I don't fear it because fear is just, you have to get that out of your head, man. Like never think it that way. Always be positive and you'll find your way through anything. That's my take on it.
I feel like there's always going to be something that you could fear. But if you have faith, it's going to overpower fear.
Yeah, and you also got to have, you know, I always look for unfair advantages. So I go to war with a goddamn army. I don't walk into anything unless I know I have an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
So you always have to look at your unfair advantage. You know, Kenny and that team and Rockfish and like Miriam and all of us together is an unfair advantage because we were able to capitalize the business. We were able to be independent. We're able then to afford to, I don't take really any money from it. That means we're able to invest in our people and our talent. We're able to do things that big companies can't do. It's because we learn from them. So we're doing everything that they can't do. And that allows us to be really, really mobile and successful. And we'll build this thing up now and see where it takes us, man. So anyway, so that's the story of Court Avenue. And it's fun. So you know, we're just at the beginning. We haven't even started yet, man. We haven't even started. So like, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's still a relatively young company, you know.
18 months, we're a baby. Yeah.
That's man, there's a lot of things changing very fast.
Yep.
You know, something you touched on earlier was if you can make something digital, what was the quote? If it could be digital,
it will be digital. That was Jeff's quote.
You know, I feel like that's kind of something we're seeing with NFTs, with virtual real estate, you know, with crypto. You know, I really feel like a lot of things are turning digital, you know, like the metaverse.
Yeah.
So what do you think about all that stuff?
You know, I think the metaverse is a term that grown-ups use to describe something that young people do every day. I think it's the
Okay.
way that we try to describe it. But like, if you go see my kid, man, he's selling his players on, on Madden, right? He's buying players, he's selling players. They have values. The values go up, right? So that's a form of currency. What we all know today is some form of crypto. It's not crypto, it's not blockchain, but it's a concept is there.
Right.
They're living in Snap, right, every day. They're communicating differently. They live in that world every day. I think the metaverse, this idea of big data is very real. I was listening to this podcast. It was Seth Rogen interviewing Steve Jobs. It was two bots interviewing each other, just like you're interviewing me. It was
Joe
two
Rogan.
bots.
Joe Rogan.
I'm sorry, Joe
Yeah,
Rogan.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Two bots like talking to each other.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that?
Two, like,
and
AI.
and it was really interesting. So
Or
like,
AI has developed that conversation.
AI has
Yeah.
developed, they predicted it. So like, you got to learn my behavior, then it predicts everything. So I think this stuff is very real. I mean, I don't know whether or not we're going to be sitting in some like random metaverse, but I think this is like, I've lived this, right? I lived the internet phase.
Right.
So there's too much momentum happening. Something
Big
will
time.
come out of it. What it is, I don't know. Like the idea of like open seas, which is like the home for NFTs, like that could have been the next Amazon. Right, but the usership went down so low. So I don't know if NFTs are the answer. I know crypto's out there is the answer. I know blockchain's the answer. I think we haven't seen what that's going to become. It's going to emerge over the next 5 years, and there'll be big winners in it. So we, as a company, pay big attention to that. Specifically, like this whole idea of like digital twinning, I think is really real.
What's that?
So digital twinning is the idea that so let's just say you and I are focusing on real estate development. Okay, as an example. And you, as a real estate professional, could like compress so much information in your head, can process so much information in your head. Well, the idea is digital twinning is you bring in a real estate bot that's a professional in an industry, and you ask that person anything, and they'll tell you something. What real estate work should we develop next? And they're pulling data in. It's a digital twin of someone else. So it's our real estate expert, but it's like a computer version of that. I think that's really real. Robotics the cost of robotics have gone down significantly. You get a robotic arm is like $6,000. And like, so does that take away cleaning in the house? Does you look at young people, they don't want to work at like McDonald's and all these like service businesses. Does robots take it over? I think we're seeing the rise of AI, robotics, automation.
Where does that leave us though?
I think it leaves us controlling robotics, AI, and automation.
Yeah.
I think because all these need good inputs, all these need good ideas, all these good thoughts, it needs creativity, and these other things. I think we're going to see this new rise of people and automation and artificial intelligence merging together. It's happening. Like this shit is going down.
What do
Like,
you
I've
think?
never
What do you
felt-
think though about humans like merging with the technology, like the chip in the brain?
I've heard about that. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we saw like right now, if you look at like, for example, glasses, like my son, unfortunately I get to experiment like technology with my kids. I can see how they play with it, but like the Oculus is a good example. So like he used the Oculus Quest like here and there, not all the time, because it's not natural to put something around your head. And not only that, they multitask. The younger kids multitask. So they need the freedom to look at their phones, look at games, do all these things. You can't multitask in that world. So until we can figure out how to have digital twinning or digital in real life or some form of AR that's really smart and really, really functional where you can kind of do your everyday life. I have a script. I'm talking to you right now. There's like a digital script sitting right there and I'm looking at it, all my notes. Like I think that's what's coming next. I think it's the augmentation of life.
Yeah.
And then I think on the bottom part of it is going to be the automation of things that people just don't want to do, that humans just don't want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big believer of like implanting chips in your body
Yeah.
and all that shit. But maybe you're going to need to do that for like climate change and issues like that. Who knows,
Well, I think initially what they're rolling it out for is for people who have Alzheimer's or other issues, diseases.
Yeah. But this thing is happening really fast. So we want to be in the middle of everything.
Really
So like
fast.
our company we provide strategic consulting services at the highest levels of the biggest company in the world around these topics. They hire us. We just gave a point of view to Procter & Gamble around the metaverse. General Mills just asked us to give them some ideas around the future of the kitchen and automation. Kia's have us thinking about like the future of like car automation and like electric vehicles and like what do we do there and like so like we have a big consulting business today because our clients need to understand the model between business and digital and like how do they make money off of that, and we help people make sense of that.
Yeah, I feel like what you were mentioning about having notifications pop up or some form of like augmented reality. I feel like that's going to be inevitable, and I feel like if you don't get involved in that, then you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, and you talk about like real estate, there's Roblox, and you have everyone like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about that because how do you create a consistent interface, right? Like Amazon, what that taught us was they understood how to create an interface so it's consistent. Then people start Amazoning their websites. Apple creates this innovative site. Now everyone's copying Apple. Like, we're learning behavior. So it's, if everyone has their own piece of land and they're not consistent and it's not templatized, how's the consumer shop and experience? So to me, it's all about the experiences and humanizing those experiences. So like, if you look at the early days, like when Google first came up, I'm like, oh my God, look at Google, what a piece of shit. Look at Facebook, what a piece of shit. I remember looking at that. Little did I know these were like billion-dollar businesses, right? But at the time, it was all driven by technologists. So the beauty of it and the humanization of it and the experience of it wasn't there. It was the innovation around technology. So that was a great lesson, which is like, if you spend time in the metaverse, you look at like MetaMask and you look at all the different players in that space, you realize that the interfaces are horrible. Why? Because they're all driven by developers and coders. When that happens and you see that movement, that means the next phase of experiences is coming next.
So you're saying that developers and coders only make it to a certain extent.
Yes.
And then it's not as
people
good.
Then take it and then they make it simple and
more normalized.
Normalized
right?
for the right, because these are special people.
Right.
I mean, these are like coders, and like being around a lot of coders, like these are special dudes. You're born with it. It's not like you and I could just become a coder one day. These guys are like born with a gift, just like we're like. But there's a very small percentage of these people that are really the best at what they do, and like people are taking people to NASA. People are doing like extreme like coding, like they're like unbelievable. Mark Zuckerberg did. These guys are not normal people. It's not like there's like Zuckerberg sitting around there everywhere.
Yeah.
But they created it so far, and then the people that understand experience and consumer behavior in that world, which we come in,
right,
and really humanize all that stuff, is what's next, and all this other stuff. So we see great technology movement. We're seeing encryption and all these things. The next phase of that is the actual application of it and the humanization of it, and that's what's going down. So we are all over it right now.
There's crazy things. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of systems in society that are also coming down. Mm-hmm. I think politics has really changed just in the sense of like social media and Twitter and what they can put out and stuff. I feel like there's going to be a big shift in all of these systems, like the educational system, like you can get educations on YouTube. Yeah. Other people you can network with and get educations. Yeah. So I don't know what. But
do people go to college for education, or they go there for experiences? They go there for experiences. So imagine I've had this whole idea of like, I think it was like, what was that term I used? It was like college.world. And the idea is that teachers actually zoom in, and everyone else is about creating experiences all over the world. So imagine if you have cohorts, right? So like right now, like my daughter's at UCSB, her core group are people she met online, like before she even got there, right? She met her roommate, people around her. She gets into sorority really quickly. So she has her cohort. And if you look at my daughter who's graduating, she has her cohort. Most people have their cohort. So imagine if that cohort now could be anywhere in the world. Imagine if corporations in big cities no longer occupy those cities, but they're occupied by students and people. And they have experiences in those cities. Teachers zoom in from all over the world. Harvard teachers, MBAs, other people. And all of a sudden the university system changes. It becomes an experience versus a place you go get an education. And so I think you're going to start seeing the inverse of these things. Like these like monumental shifts are about to happen. Look at travel. I mean, how much has travel changed? You go on a plane today, like the colors are different. You can watch the television. It's still a goddamn plane that takes like 6 hours for me to get to New York, right? Like someone's reinventing travel. Someone's reinventing education. Someone's reinventing universities. Someone's reinventing real estate. These things are about to happen. Why? Because we have the power of automation and knowledge and insights than ever before.
Dang, things are happening so fast.
We're in the data collection business today. So if you look at the biggest need for clients today, they have unstructured data. They have all this data they pulled in. United Healthcare, Blue Cross, or they know everything about you. They know that you've been to the doctors 500 times. But it's all over the place in these big data banks. What they're doing now is taking that unstructured data, dropping into some form of AI, and then AI conversation comes out with like, hey, did you know that your half your employees are about to die because they all have diabetes in this one location? Do something to keep them healthy quickly.
Whoa.
That's what's happening. So I think we're at the beginning of everything we've worked on is just the beginning of where we're going. And I don't think this is that far-fetched. I can go really far-fetched and tell you some shit that I think is really out there. But
what's really out there, Dan? Because we're moving real fast.
So here's a theory I have about things.
Okay.
And this is really out there.
Okay.
So Willy Wonka invented the internet.
Willy Wonka?
invented the internet.
Okay.
Okay, let me tell you why.
Why?
If you go back and watch original Willy Wonka, which is like it broadcast like in the 70s, okay? There's a scene. Did you watch original Willy Wonka I'm talking
I
about?
have. It's been years.
Okay. So there's a scene of like the kid, the guy with the gun, little
Okay.
Tommy, whatever his name is, he's got the gun. And he ends up in a TV set. And if you go back that day, what happened is the kid gets broken up to a bunch of particles in the air, and then it combines together again, and he's in the television set.
Huh.
And that is what's called TCP/IP protocol. That's how the original internet was built. It was built by taking packets of data, sending it all around the place, and reconverging on one thing. I think some kid sat there and was watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and said, "Holy shit, I'm going to make that."
Whoa. You don't think that they knew about that at that time, maybe?
It did. This is before the ARPANET was built. This is before the government was built. The Willy Wonka was built before the internet was built.
Okay.
I think someone saw that and got inspired by that. I don't know if you're out there. Please let me know if I'm true. But like, I think someone saw that. That was the beginning of the internet. That was the TCP/IP protocol. All right. So now let's fast forward. What's happened since Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? We've been able to move emails. We're watching 4K streaming. You're watching 4K streaming on your phone. We're doing 3D printing. I mean, think about how far we've gone in a relatively short period of time. So imagine this.
Just in your lifetime.
Just in my life. So imagine this. Imagine if I told you this. So imagine if you and I go to a facility. It's not called an airport. It's something. It's a travel facility. We walk in there and there's think of it like a DNA sequencing tablet that comes in. And you go into your tablet and the physical tablet gets shot around. You never ever lose a tablet. It doesn't dissolve you like they have a space track where you dissolve your body.
What do you mean, like a tablet, like an iPad?
Like a tablet, like almost like a big Tylenol capsule, like a capsule.
Okay.
And you go in the capsule and say, "I want to go to New York." The other place says, "I want to go to Chicago." And what happens is that capsule moves at the speed of light.
Okay.
Through a broadband, through infrastructure.
And everyone's getting in that same capsule.
Yep. And they're all distributed all over the world, and they reconverge in a particular location. Copenhagen, Helsinki, whatever it is. I believe that someone's going to figure out, as we keep going into space and we travel, I believe that someone's going to figure out a way to travel around the world at speeds never seen before. And it's not going to be through a pipe. It's going to be through an air.
Yeah.
I think they're going to lose, just like the great gravity movements. I think someone's going to figure out how to move things at the speed of light around the world, where you go up, your capsule spreads out, and you somehow hit some kind of current that we've now found that we didn't know through computer, and bam, you show up somewhere, and travel gets reinvented, and the whole travel industry changes. Wow. And by the quicker you connect humankind, the quicker we all learn how to solve big problems.
Yeah.
Which I believe is climate change. That is quicker than people ever imagined. The more you bring people together, the more we all can work together to solve bigger problems.
Mm-hmm. So it's like teleporting.
I don't want to use terms like again, I just think, I'm not a NASA engineer.
Yeah.
I just think like Elon Musk is trying to do that with his little
the underground.
The underground thing.
Okay.
I think it's not going to happen that way. I think it's too limited because you got to move people in packets. You got to think about think about the protocol of the internet. So if we can move streaming video.
What do you mean when you say you don't think it's going to happen that way? You don't think that's going to be the next stage?
He's creating a broadband pipe and he's pushing you through the pipe.
Yeah.
I think it's another shift of movement.
Isn't he using like magnets?
I don't know what he's doing,
Okay.
but I think it's another playbook that someone's going to come up with. Someone's going to come up and they're going to figure something with quantum physics, or they're going to do something.
There's
that's
got to be something because
change the way we move.
A flight to New York at 6 hours. I mean,
Still
there's got to be a way to cut that.
There's got to be a right. So, and it's not rational. Think about how fast we've been able to move things. Like think how fast we've been able to move packets, and we went from moving packets and emails to now full video. Like you expect 4K streaming on your phone. Like how incredible is that, dude? 4K streaming on your phone.
Yeah, but with humans, we're talking about something that's physical.
I know, but if you capsule it in there, and they're in encapsulation, just like a packet would be, or streaming or video. Video is broke up in a bunch of little series of content. Well, how the hell is that moving?
Yeah.
As long as our bodies are protected, it could withstand anything.
So you're saying that capsule, because how would everyone get into one capsule and then it would
So you go to like a station, like 50 people get
it would
into
bring them each to different areas.
locations, but this is happening all over the world simultaneously.
Oh, you're saying that capsule's traveling to this spot, then
Yes.
that spot.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, like
Everyone's
as
reemerging
fast
at once.
as yeah.
Everyone's reemerging once.
Okay.
Copenhagen, reemerge to Helsinki, like I'm in Japan. I'm gonna go here, right? You're reemerging. You're breaking down.
So and everyone's aware when it stops.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
You've arrived. It's like, you're there. And you get out.
What got you on this theory?
I just think that I believe that I sat in a lot of planes.
Uh-huh.
And I sat there and I kept thinking to myself, there's no possible way that we haven't reinvented travel.
Yeah. I think that's the next big thing, really.
And not only that, it's like going into airplanes, going to airports, and it's a process. It's like going to dealers. Like look at Tesla. Tesla's reinvented the whole dealership model, right? You get a Tesla sent to your door. You don't even know when it arrives. Like here you are, buy your
Well, the dealership model alone, but also the car itself.
Yeah,
the
car
speed
itself
of the car
is
itself.
insane.
Like that is a huge innovation
Huge
right there.
innovation.
Compared to the gas car.
Amazing. So I just think that people who are much smarter than me, there's a kid out there, there's people out there right now that are going to reinvent the way we travel. And I believe I will see it in my lifetime. I believe I will.
Couldn't they just make the plane faster though?
I don't think so. I think the plane's broken as a result of that fuel.
Oh, really?
It's probably unhealthy. I think people are going to come up with a more sophisticated way to do it, more comfortable way. And you'll pop places.
Higher risk if they make the plane faster.
Yeah, higher risk, or it's just old school. It's like, who needs a goddamn plane anymore?
Yeah.
I think the whole industry gets disrupted. That's my prediction. Someone reinvents that. So these are the type of things that I think about. Like I walk around and I think about these things. I think about why things that when I start traveling, like I'll just give how my mind works. Like when I start traveling a lot international, I noticed a lot of people I was doing business with that were just really unhealthy. And so I was like, God, how do I come out of this 4 years like alive? And I started talking to all the flight attendants. I want to know how they survive. They travel more than anybody.
Yeah.
And I sat
You're
there.
saying flying on a plane's unhealthy?
Flying a plane. And I just interviewed flight attendants every trip, what they got, what kind of food they ate, what they bring with them, how they do what they do. And I learned how to travel. I don't eat food on planes. I bring my own food now. I pack my own stuff. And I just think people underestimate. There's people.
You don't eat on planes? Why?
Because it's really unhealthy. It's heavy salt in order to preserve the food.
It's heavy what?
Heavy salt, sodium.
To preserve the food.
Yeah, they keep the food in order to travel with it. It's heavy salt. It's not as fresh. It's just not healthy, dude.
Oh wow.
They don't even eat the food.
Yeah.
So I stay away from everything. And I fly in some great Emirates and I don't touch anything. I bring my own food. I pack my own shit. Oh yeah. You gotta be really careful. So I'm really careful, but I don't drink on flights.
But there's you're talking about the products that they bring on.
Yeah, I'm talking about,
I'm asking is there any issue with digestion on a flight?
No. I'm saying I can eat my own food.
Okay.
But alcohol is an issue.
Got it.
People have told me countless occasions don't drink. So the point being is that there's answers. People make the mistake of they underestimate how easy someone makes it look for what it is they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like LeBron James. You're watching him on TV, and then you see LeBron James holy shit, now I know why he's an NBA player, which we had a chance of seeing here at this club.
Yeah.
But there are people that do what you do better than you do, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And your job as an entrepreneur and as a business person is to figure out what do they do so much better than you and respect that. And so when I was traveling around the world, I didn't come up with my own theories, read my own books. I went right to the flight attendants. Everyone on my flights, where everyone was sleeping, I'm interviewing every goddamn flight attendant, what they did, how they did it, how they bring food on, how they work out, how they stay healthy, how do do you have any cancer rates? Have you seen anything? I want to know everything.
Yeah.
That's how I.
How do they bring food on?
Well, they first of all, a lot of what I find is that there's kind of there's food hens of the cabins, and people bring different parts of a food. Some people would bring a little sandwich. Other people bring
they can get through security with food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They bring their own. They're flight attendants. So
Yeah.
I'd go back there sometimes. I'm I know there's food back. I'm starving. And
No.
they'll give me a sandwich sometimes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if you're frequently on there,
Yeah.
you know
You
the
get
people.
to know people.
Yeah.
It's super cool. So I just love, I love people and I love industries. God touches people in some ways. I don't know why. And when they're touched, you just want to be around them. And I get a chance to be around those people every day. I'm around designers and technologists and stuff. They're just touch, man. God gave them a gift, dude. And so I get a chance to be around those people. It's incredible to watch, man. It's incredible to watch.
Where did religion come in for you?
I don't, first I grew up in a Jewish Orthodox home, probably. But I guess, I say God gift not as a religious role,
Right.
but as a recognizing that there's somehow
Like a source?
people have a special touch to them.
Okay.
And I don't know where it comes from. And one day we'll all know.
Yeah.
But like it's more like, man, it's a gift. It's a special. You just see it. You know it. I took my daughter to this great event with like entrepreneurs and women, and it was run by this woman named Amy Jo. She runs this program called Renegade. I've talked about it. And she had all these top like women entrepreneurs there. And I told my daughter, I said, look at all these people. These just the girl, her name is Allie. She created Dry Bar, sold it for like 200 plus million. And
Wow.
the list goes on and on. I go, Lily, what do you see in all these people?
Yes, your daughter.
Yeah. So what do you see? And she's like, they're amazing. I go, no, they have it. They have something that everyone else in this room doesn't have. They just have it.
What is it?
I don't know what it is. They just have it. And everybody knows they have it. They know they have it.
They know they have it.
They know they have it.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room knows they have it. And that is what makes them great. What they do with it is a whole nother story. They can be destructive. They can be this. They just have it.
But are you referring to something like a talent that they have, or something like internal confidence?
An intuition you feel when you look at them. You know that they just have it.
I'm saying the people though that have it.
Yeah.
Is it more of like an internal confidence that you see that they have, or is it
instincts, good questions, self-aware, a lot of humility, leaders, humble, experience, hungry.
Do you find that though in older people, more people who have had a lot of experience in life?
I don't know. It's, you just come across people that just have something that you're just like, man, there's just something special about them. Like you just see it in them. And I just think it's just, like I said, like somehow they're tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I mean, I don't know why. Somehow people are. And that's saying that other people aren't contributing and being successful and doing other things. Some people just have that ability. Like, how do you explain LeBron being 6'7", something he can do what he does? How do you explain there's a new guy named, I don't know what his name, new basketball guy, 7'4", the guy.
Yeah, that's something.
How do you explain that, man? Where does that come from? I mean, people just have it, man. And I just think the people that, I always say, if you can match your passions with your skill, and you have drive, that's how you really become successful. You got to connect the dots, and you got to want it. You can't just be talented with no drive. It doesn't do anything. You got to be talented. You have to have passion, and you have to have the drive.
Yeah.
And those are special people.
Well, with someone like that, like someone like LeBron, I feel like he realized early on that he was really talented at basketball, and then recognized that, and then just went with that. I'm curious to.
But he built a global brand.
Yeah.
He's built an icon. He's a billion-dollar athlete. I mean, how do you explain that? It's a kid from the ghettos.
Yeah.
Playing ball.
Definitely. I'm curious to see though, for someone not as obvious of a talent in basketball or a sport, right? Like, how does someone else discover that? Yeah.
And if you miss it, then you're blind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you just know. It's like children athletes. You just see the kids that, whether they become pros or not, who knows? But you can see the ones that have that natural instinct.
Right.
Whether they work as hard or their drive is there, who knows? Not that you can't catch up. But like some people just have that talent, and it's just a special thing to watch. And so I find in my business, I got to be around all these really talented people, and you see it in them. You see the designers and technology. I mean, these guys are coding shit. They're making stuff out of nothing. You don't even know where it comes from. Next thing you know, like, where did that come from? Like, how do they do that? They're amazing. So I just feel I love being around really talented people because I don't possess that talent. Like I don't have that talent. I have my own talents, but they have very different talent. And so I love being around people that have that tacticianer talent. Yeah. They make things, they produce stuff. It's so cool, man. I think it's just amazing, and I just love that.
Yeah, that's I think that's like maybe like the biggest thing I think with life, is I think everyone's trying to figure out what that is for them, and once they do, then they run with it like LeBron with basketball or, whatever else people do, and people in your industry, like they found that and they've run with it.
Yeah.
And they've created great careers
Yeah.
with it. I think that's something that, I don't know. I guess I just wish that there was something that people could find out what that is for them.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to find out what it is for them. And I think there's also moments of greatness. I don't think it happens all the time.
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't take a last shot all the time. Like Jordan had that. Like,
Well, I'm saying like discovering like that
yeah,
true talent
Yeah.
or passion.
yeah. I think it's being self-aware.
Yeah.
I think it's just being really honest with yourself and like what you are and what you're not. Like I think that's really important. Like I try to be just really honest with myself about like who I am, who I'm not, and like you just gotta be honest with yourself. Like when you look in the mirror and be like, dude, just cut your own shit. Like what are you good at, what are you not?
Yeah.
And like don't bullshit yourself. Like the reason to know that is because you run other people that do what you do better, and you're like, oh man, that person's so much more talented than I am. Not saying I can't be like number 3 or number 4 and do well, make a good living, but like if you want to be the best, you got to be totally completely honest about who you are and where you sit.
But what if someone's in a job, that they got out of college and it's, kind of like a dead end job, someone working at a grocery store or something like,
Yeah.
What if they're in something that they just really
Yeah.
don't enjoy and don't want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I was blessed by love, and I was blessed to be around people that encouraged me to be myself. And I was blessed with people that, and we had no money, we had nothing, but we had love and we had confidence, and that allowed me to push through. So, my advice to those people are, if you have a dream, you have a vision, like just freaking go after it, man.
Yeah. So you found, when you moved out here, your brother was telling you he moved to LA and he's like,
Yeah.
you gotta come out west.
Yeah.
You came out west with like no background of digital marketing.
No.
Or, like no idea about any of that.
There was no internet.
So then
Yeah.
you get out here,
Yeah.
and he tells you about razorfish.
No, I get out here and I get into the telecommunication business.
Okay.
So I learned about infrastructure,
Uh-huh.
and then
What got you, like, what made you even go there?
because they're hiring a sales team out here, and they're like, oh, I heard about. They're like, hey, we're looking for good salespeople. I'm like, I'd love to learn about sales, and we're selling infrastructure. I'm like, okay, I'll go do that, and that's how I fell into it.
What is infrastructure?
Like at the time, it was like T1 and broadband shit that's like normal today.
Okay.
It was like the original stitching of the internet, like putting together things and like the packets need to go through here and like all that stuff. We were at servers and where you host websites and all that stuff.
But just the fact that you even got drawn into that business
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah, it's
then
insane.
then it started the digital marketing
Yeah.
phase of your life.
100%, man.
I think you're touched right there.
Yeah.
To
Or
even
just
have that
fortunate
job,
to have that
right?
opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Like people give you opportunities, but it's like, I think the lesson learned is that you as a person, like you just got to do your best to contribute to the world, And when you're around super talented people like I get a chance to be with every day, like you just got to cherish those moments because you recognize that these people are special. Not that other people aren't and other people have their skills, but you just know they're really good at what they do. You're like, man, these guys are really good at what they do.
What causes you to think like that, though? Because you recognize based on their results that they're...
Yeah, I recognize
that
based on
they're-
results, and I recognize we take them on against the best clients in the world, against the best talent in the world in my industry, and you recognize like, man, we have some of the best people out there, and it's super cool,
Yeah.
and it's just fun because you just know that they're super talented. You cheer them on, like you want them to do great things, and you're so excited. I mean, now I look at some of our former Digitar employees. They're at Facebook, they're at here, they're building software companies. It's just super cool, and I remember each one of them. I'm like, man, I saw that, and like that person had. We always were really good at spotting the right talent and bringing good people on board, and I just believe in people. I want people to do great things. I don't care if they work for me or not work for me. I want them to go on and do great things. And that's a part of my story. And I get the chance that they walk by my life and they contribute to my life. And I love that. And I'm so appreciative of that. So I'm just a cheerleader for humanity. Wherever I can help people, I try doing. And whatever I can do to help people be successful, I try doing. Any advice I can give people, I try giving advice. Because everyone's helped me become the man I am today. And without that, I wouldn't be the type of person I am today, which is the most important thing, which is, living with a lot of love in the heart and a lot of humility and being around and surrounded by people that I love and I love to be with. And that's the most important thing. And money and dollars and all this stuff is a byproduct of success, but it's irrelevant. No one cares.
Yeah.
And someone else has more, and it
Always,
doesn't,
right?
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter.
But,
So
I mean, that's such a good perspective on life. I feel like that's come with age, come with wisdom. have you always had that great of an attitude?
Yeah, I think, for me, I thought it was interesting. I think I always had a good attitude. I was a competitive spirit. I think the big thing for me was, I got asked to join this program called the March to the Living. And it was the first March to the Living when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
It was the first program that young Jewish kids would go into the concentration camps and see what happened. And I was a normal kid in high school, man, doing my thing and like hanging out, playing sports. I played three sports.
You're saying at 14 years old?
I was like 15 now, 15,
Wow.
16. I was young kid.
Yeah.
And I heard about this program. They interviewed a bunch of kids, and because I didn't have anyone that died in the Holocaust, and I was a good speaker, and they're like, hey, we should bring this kid in, man. He can help me. He's kind of connected to the rest of high schools, knows a lot of people. He's like, maybe we bring him in. So I went with another person who had people died in the Holocaust. And I went to, they threw me right into Poland, man, into Germany. And I went over there, man, and I had a chance to watch, go through the concentration camps and see all this shit. And I think that really kind of at an early age set me into thinking about like, man, like I'm really blessed just to be alive.
Yeah.
When you're walking where 8 million people died, dude, and you're walking through concentration camps at a very young age and you're like seeing this stuff go down in front of you. It's pretty crazy stuff. So that was important for me because that allowed me to understand like, man, like the power of marketing that Hitler used, and like how it can be good, and like how he used it for bad and how he used it to manipulate countries and societies. And it taught me a lot about hate and how bad hate can be and how far people are willing to go. It taught me a lot about the will of people and people trying to survive through that. And the fact that, Jewish people have been able to come out of there and continue to survive, like this amazing thing, like 8 million people died. Like it's crazy. 6 to 8.
Yeah.
It just taught me a lot about life and people and culture. And at a very young age, I kind of got into that just looking, I think, God, I feel like I gotta be really blessed every day. And ever since then, I've been a person that like tries to help and do things. And I'm not perfect. I have my own issues, like everyone else does. But like wherever I can chip in, I try chipping in. And I think that experience left a major imprint on me because we're the first person ever to do it, man. It was so raw. Now they've had thousands of groups do what we did. But dude, we're there with like this guy named Elie Wiesel, who's a famous publisher. Like he walked with us. We went from Auschwitz to the concentration camp to Birkenau, which was a death camp. Everyone was crying in front of us.
What's the
so
difference?
Auschwitz is where Jews, they went to go work.
Okay.
And then when they were done working and they were frail, they moved them about 2 miles down the road to a place called Birkenau where they died in gas chambers.
Okay.
So the March to the Living was the march from Auschwitz to Birkenau.
Wow.
And we did that march.
Who signed you up for that?
Dude, I don't know, man. I thought I was going to go meet girls.
That's insane.
I thought I was going to hang out and meet girls. I thought I was like going to have fun. Like I'm thinking I'm going on this trip. They knew something. They knew I'd go out there and they knew I'd come back, and that's how I learned how to public speak because at that point I had to go to all the public schools and talk about being Jewish and like living through that and like try to convince all these other kids like, hey, this is real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to carry that, man.
Oh, so you had to basically like
come back and speak at all these public schools.
Yeah.
Where, like there's no Jewish kids. And like explain to them like, oh yeah, there's this thing called the Holocaust in Poland. Like they don't even know what Poland is. Like,
that was before internet.
Yeah.
So people couldn't look up what it was.
Yeah, they didn't know really what it was. So we were out there
Wow.
education. Like it was like going school to school to school, and I had to walk through everything. And that's how.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's a cool experience for you.
It's a cool experience. Yeah. I've had a lot of cool experiences, man. I mean that experience was a great experience, but it was a very sad. It was very real. It was a very
Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah, really heavy, really quickly.
I mean, at that age.
Yeah.
But it caused you to have this great attitude towards life.
It did, and it was an amazing experience. And I just feel, I feel really blessed. And you compound that the fact that my parents, came from a different country, and I just feel really fortunate, dude. I just really do.
That's beautiful, man.
I just feel really fortunate when you're there and you see that and you're in that place and you're in like gas chambers and you're fucking sitting in a gas chamber and you see the nails of people and they're scratching and you're like, dude, man, I'm happy to be alive, brother. So for me, every day is a fortunate day because like you never know when someone's gonna tap you on the shoulder, man. It's your time. So I'm gonna just keep going until it's my time.
Wow.
So that's kind of what I do. And I think, there's, again, we all have you can't be everything to everybody. So like, I keep my circles tight. I spend as much time with my family, my kids, as much as I can. I love my passions with business. A lot of my friends are through business. And I just kind of work out, try staying healthy, try eat more than I should. But like, I try to just do my thing, man, and live my life and just be a good citizen and never lose the like where I come from, man. My parents had nothing and people helped us in our community. And I always get back to where I'm from in Minneapolis. Like I just never lose where I'm from, man. And you can't lose your purpose. And that to me has been the kind of guiding light of who I am as a person. And I think that embodies like how I run companies and how I build things and how I do things. It's all driven by that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what I'm chasing. You know, I sometimes I'll ask me like, Dan, aren't you done? Like, what are you still going after? Like, I just feel like to me, like, I feel like it's like my obligation to show people like a young Dan, like, hey man, anything can happen. And I feel like it's my responsibility to like show that anything's possible. With hard work and love and passion, like anything can happen, man. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to like Ivy League schools. I'm just a kid, man, from Minneapolis, working hard, trying to build a life for myself.
Yeah.
And I had no one help me with anything. I put myself through college. I worked through college. I did everything on my own. I moved out here with no money, but my wife and I did, we came together and we started a life together, and and that relationship was so critical because she was the backbone to all of this. Like without a strong wife and support and family, and none of that would happen even before I came into it. So all these things compound, and I just think it's amazing. There's nothing like young families. You get married, like all these young families and people come together, and like I think it's amazing because you just never know. And I always tell people like never ever underestimate yourself and your ability to do great things. Never question yourself. You believe in something, go do it, because everyone's going to question you. So you don't have to question yourself because everyone else will.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about you questioning yourself because everyone else is questioning you.
Yeah.
So go out there and just be you, dude, and do your thing. And then if it works out great, if not, what's the worst thing to do? You're going to fail? Who gives a shit? What? Who cares? People fucking dying every day around here. You're worried about that? And that's what I learned, man. And it's hard to come to terms with that, but you got to come to terms with yourself. And like that whole kind of reawakening of myself and coming out of corporate life and like playing that big role. Like I'm the CEO of this big global company with 2,500 employees, around the world. And like, I miss just kind of going out there and like, man, I'm just a kid just trying to build a life for myself.
Yeah. It's freeing.
I just love it, man.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little more about me.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. And thanks for having me on today. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll hear more of each other, man.
Yeah, awesome.
All right,
guys.
brother. Thank
See
you.
ya.
As I can. I love my passions with business. A lot of my friends are through business, and I just kind of work out, try staying healthy, try eat more than I should. But like, I try to just do my thing, man, and live my life and just be a good citizen and never lose the like where I come from, man. My parents had nothing, and people helped us in our community, and I always get back to where I'm from in Minneapolis. Like I just never lose where I'm from, man. And you can't lose your purpose. And that to me has been the kind of guiding light of who I am as a person. And I think that embodies like how I run companies and how I build things and how I do things. It's all driven by that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what I'm chasing. I sometimes I'll ask me like, Dan, aren't you done? Like, what are you still going after? Like, I just feel like to me, like, I feel like it's like my obligation to show people like a young Dan, like, hey man, anything can happen. And I feel like it's my responsibility to like show that anything's possible. With hard work and love and passion, like anything can happen, man. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to like Ivy League schools. I'm just a kid, man, from Minneapolis, working hard, trying to build a life for myself.
Yeah.
And I had no one help me with anything. I put myself through college. I worked through college. I did everything on my own. I moved out here with no money, but my wife and I did, we came together and we started a life together, and that relationship was so critical because she was the backbone to all of this. Like without a strong wife and support and family, and none of that would happen even before I came into it. So all these things compound, and I just think it's amazing. There's nothing like young families. You get married, like all these young families and people come together, and like I think it's amazing because you just never know. And I always tell people like never ever underestimate yourself and your ability to do great things. Never question yourself. You believe in something, go do it, because everyone's going to question you. So you don't have to question yourself because everyone else will.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about you questioning yourself because everyone else is questioning you.
Yeah.
So go out there and just be you, dude, and do your thing. And then if it works out great, if not, what's the worst thing to do? You're going to fail? Who gives a shit? What? Who cares? People fucking dying every day around here. You're worried about that? And that's what I learned, man. And it's hard to come to terms with that, but you got to come to terms with yourself. And like that whole kind of reawakening of myself and coming out of corporate life and like playing that big role. Like I'm the CEO of this big global company with 2,500 employees, around the world. And like, I miss just kind of going out there and like, man, I'm just a kid just trying to build a life for myself.
Yeah. It's freeing.
I just love it, man.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a little more about me.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. And thanks for having me on today. It was a lot of fun. And hopefully we'll hear more of each other, man.
Yeah. Awesome. All right,
All right,
guys.
brother. Thank
See
you.
ya.